Hello everybody, welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Nick Jeremy, and you're listening to, do I talk too much? Man, I'm so excited. You know, this is something I've been wanting to do for a long time, something that God has just placed on my heart, you know, to be an encouragement to others. You know, there are some times as Christians we have a rough week. And we just need a break out of our week. And we just need encouragement, or we just need to get out of our own head. And I'm hoping this is what this podcast can be. So you're probably wondering, Nick, why do you have a podcast? Simple. I want to encourage people. And I want the world to know that us Christians are just as human as the next person. And what I mean by that is, you know, we get a lot of bad rap for, you know, having our beliefs and we don't agree with what everyone does. And that's okay, because that's how we know our Heavenly Father wants us to act, and how our Heavenly Father doesn't want us to be like the world, you know. But just because we don't agree with everybody doesn't mean we hate everybody. Now, there are some bad apples who do make most Christians look bad. And, you know, shame on you. But a majority of the Christians I know are amazing people who really love God and really love people. And all they want to do is, you know, be a light to the world, be an encouragement to others. And even though we may not agree with what everyone in the world agrees with, we do still love the people in this world regardless. Because at the end of the day, we're all God's children, you know. We're all God's children. So that's pretty much why I wanted to do it. You know, I want to encourage people, because I know sometimes I'll have a bad week, and it'd be nice just to take a break from my world and just listen to somebody. I listen to podcasts myself, sports, music, and it's a nice breather from your day. You know, just to listen to other people talk about things you're interested in, you know. So, that's pretty much why I started this podcast. So you're wondering, you know, how do I get the podcast? Well, if you're listening, you probably already followed my Facebook page. And I believe that's the initials, Do I Talk Too Much, the first letter of each Do I Talk Too Much, and Nick Jeremy, /Nick Jeremy. I'll make sure at the ending I get that correct. I don't really have it in front of me at the moment. But my Facebook page is just simple. Just go to search and Do I Talk Too Much? ? And I should pop right up. Anyways, you know, you can go on there. If you're listening now, that means you went on there and you found out how to download or how to get the podcast. There are two simple ways at the moment to get the podcast. Sorry, I keep burping for some reason. There are two simple ways to get the podcast at the moment. One, YouTube. You know, sit there and you can listen to YouTube on your phone, computer, tablet, whatever you have. You can listen to it on YouTube. Second, if you send me your email address to my inbox on Facebook, I will put you on my email list, and you will get the podcast the day before I drop it on YouTube. I do ask is if you go that route, that if you have a YouTube account, and if you enjoyed the episode, just hit the like button on YouTube. That's it. All the links will be on the page for where where the video is and all that stuff. So That's how you get the podcast. So you're probably also wondering, how's it going to work? How's it going to be structured? How are you going to do this? It's simple. I'm going to have an opening where I talk about, my day, things that are happening in the world, maybe a couple of Donald Trump phrases. I can't believe he said that. Music, movies, whatever's on my mind at the time of me doing the opening to this podcast is what we'll talk about. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about inappropriate things because that's not me, and that's not what this podcast is for. This is strictly just people knowing that Christians do talk about other things other than God, the Bible, and whatever else they think we talk about. So, so we're going to talk about, all kinds of stuff in the opening. It's going to vary depending on, what's on my mind. And then I'm going to try to have a guest on it, a Christian who works every day in the everyday workplace, or a pastor, or a Christian artist, a musician, someone just from my church, people that I think can encourage someone with their testimony. I'm going to have on the show because I think that's important. Whenever, I have someone on the show, my prayer is for that interview to touch someone's life. Maybe they went through something someone else went through, because all of our testimonies aren't the same, but there are some things that each of us go through that are kind of similar. And, maybe there are things we have yet to get past, struggles. And this person did, and you're like, wow, I never thought of it that way. So that's what I'm hoping with these interviews, to be encouraging and just help out as much as possible. And then at the end, I'm going to give an encouraging word. Today is going to be about testimony. I'm going to take a brief moment to talk about my testimony. I say brief because I could talk about, stuff in my life all day. I'm just not going to do it. And how important our testimony is in our lives, not just for us, but for the world, for the people who aren't Christians, for people who don't know who God is. Our testimony shows us that, hey, God can change us. I used to be like this, and I went through this, and, I got out of this, and the only reason I went through all that stuff, got out of all that stuff, and I am where I am, and I am who I am to this day, is because of God. So, that's pretty much how every episode is going to work. So today I was going to talk about the red Starbucks cup. But, unfortunately, something more happened on Friday. The Paris attacks. Very strategic, when I heard it, first I didn't know, about it. Because everyone kept posting about Paris. I'm like, what happened in Paris? So I looked it up before I went to bed on Friday. And man, everyone thinks that, this is ISIS, and physically it is ISIS, but this is a spiritual battle as well. The enemy, his time is coming, and he knows that. And he's just doing all he can because he knows that when God comes, and when Jesus comes, to get us, and after the tribulation, and after all is said and done, that he's gone. He knows this, and he knows that time is coming soon. We don't know the hour or the day, but it's soon. If you just look at the world right now, you know something's gonna happen. Either it's this is not as worse as gonna get, or it's going to get worse when our kids are older, or it's going to get worse during our time. We don't know because we're not God. But, the enemy seems desperate, and if you allow the enemy to use you, he will put the craziest stuff in your mind, and you will probably do those things. And I'm pretty sure that, ISIS, whoever they're praying to, there's just another name for the devil, to be honest with you. They're praying for the enemy. Our relationship that we have with our Father, no other religion, because we're not a religion, no other religion has a relationship with their God. We do, you know. And, you know, I'm pretty sure God's not going to tell his people, hey, I need you to go kill yourself, to go kill a whole bunch of, need you to suicide bomb and sacrifice yourself to kill a whole bunch of people. That's not the God we serve. We serve a loving God who graciously give us mercy and grace every day, who give us a new start every day. We're not promised tomorrow, but we wake up in the morning and we're blessed just to have the day. You know, some of us complain and moan about our lives. I've done it several times, but you know, we're blessed to have such an amazing Father who loves us, and that can show us, you know, that can show us things before, you know, the enemy tries to, you know, attack us. You know, he can guard us from the enemy's attacks. You know, as long as we have that close relationship with him, and that's through word and prayer, his word and prayer. But man, it's just unfortunate how that happened to Paris. You know, a lot of people were killed. You know, I'm just overwhelmed by, you know, a lot of people who are praying for Paris, who put up the support for Paris. You know, I also see a lot of people complaining that people put up the flag on their profile to support Paris. I don't know why you're complaining. You know, well, there was another attack that happened a week ago or days before, and no one said anything. Well, if the news don't report it, we don't know, you know. I don't have an antenna directly to what goes on in the world. But, you know, what happened in Paris was big, and I'm not saying that, you know, this other terrorist attack wasn't big. But this was big, you know, this strategic. And a lot of people died, you know. And it's unfortunate that, you know, that people are so influenced by the enemy that they allow him to put these sick thoughts in their minds to go blow up people. Like, I don't understand it, you know, maybe because I wasn't raised that way, or, you know, our God is not like that, but, you know, it's very sad, you know, and, you know, just continue to pray for Paris and continue to pray for our world, pretty much. You know, ISIS has threatened to attack several things here in America. And, you know, it's just very unfortunate that people feel the need that they have to do that, you know. It is very sad, so. You know, I just hope, you know, the Paris, they make it, and they'll be stronger after that, and they'll tighten up their borders and everything. So. But let's get back to the red cups real quick. Let's go to that for a minute. I saw the evolution of that. I actually have the guy on my Facebook page. I'm not going to say who it is, but he started it, and I understood why he did what he did. You know what I'm saying? You know, Christmas is about Jesus, you know, and, you know, the world is trying to shun away from Jesus, so they say happy holidays, or, you know, they just do whatever. But it's having a red cup at Starbucks shouldn't offend us at all, you know. It's just a red cup, you know. You know, I don't really think much about it. I don't go to Starbucks all the time, but coffee's coffee, you know, just how it is. But I understood where he was coming from. He even put up a video saying he probably is a little embarrassed for what he did. He said he has good intentions, and I understood him, because there are times where I felt passionate about something, and then when I went to, you know, talk to other people about it, they're like, dude, it's not that serious. And you're like, you know, the first couple people, you're like, whatever, it's serious. But then when more people are starting to say, dude, it's not that serious, you're like, did I make a big deal out of something I shouldn't have made a big deal out of? So he apologized, you know, for, you know, if, you know, for the fiasco. Maybe he didn't think about it before he did it, but he was very passionate about it, and I got it. You know, I understood where he was trying to come from. You know, Christmas is, you know, Jesus is the reason for the season and for Christmas, and I understood what that's where he was going to with that. But at the same time, he also said in the video that people were telling him to go kill himself. Now, I don't know about all that. How are you going to tell a man who is passionate about something, like we've never been passionate about something in our lives? How are we going to go tell someone to go kill himself? All because he was, telling us to go to Starbucks and say, hey, when they ask you for your name, put Merry Christmas. And then take a picture of it and put hashtag Merry Christmas, Starbucks. Telling someone to go kill himself is a little bit overboard. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, we all have been passionate about something at one point of our lives, and then we realize it's not that big of a deal. And he realized that, and he understood that. And it's good that he put out a video saying he realized that it probably wasn't that big of a deal, but his intentions were good. They were genuine. He wasn't, trying to start a war or anything like that, and it blew up real quick. Like, people jumped on board, and then people quickly turned against them, just like Ronda Rousey. But that's a whole nother story. So, with that being said, my first guest in the first episode of Do I Talk Too Much? You just heard me almost 16 minutes of talking, so I probably do talk too much. But my first guest, his name is John O'Leary. I think he said he was 21. Yeah, he's 21 years old. Sorry, I had to remember the interview. He's 21 years old. He's still got a whole life ahead of him. But to hear just what he's been through in his short time of life and stuff like that is very encouraging. We can't, just because, some people haven't been through a lot what we've been through, we can't dismiss what God has done in their lives. You know what I'm saying? I think people tend to be like, well, that's nothing compared to what I've been through. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you don't relate to someone's testimony, and that's fine. You know what I'm saying? There are other people who do relate to other people's testimonies. So, this is fun. There was a fun interview. I've known John for about a year now, year and a half, and you know how when you know someone and you think they're going to answer your question a certain way? Well, this dude blew my mind, you know what I'm saying? He was very in depth with his answers, and you could tell that he is, wanting to serve God and put God first in his life. And, like I said, he's got a whole life ahead of him. And it's going to be cool to see where he is in 10 years or 5 years. So, I hope you enjoyed the opening. Like I said, pray for Paris. Pray for that guy who started the Red Starbucks Cup movement. He needs prayer too. We all do. But I hope you enjoy the interview with John. And let's get into our interview with John O'Leary. Alright, everybody, I'm here with John O'Leary. So, before we get started, welcome to the show, John.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're episode 1. How does it feel to be on a podcast or something like that?
I don't know. I've never really done anything like this before, so hopefully hopefully I learn a lot, have a good time, or whatever you're supposed to learn to do on a podcast.
Alright, so how you doing today, man?
It's been a mixed day. There's been some good, there's been some bad. Nice little roller coaster.
Work,
a lot of things, yeah.
what do you do for work?
I am in industrial quality assurance, and basically anything to do with, the theme is basically weld inspecting. I'm not necessarily a weld inspector, but, that's the theme of a lot of what I do. So, essentially I'm in construction.
Alright, so today's theme, At the back end of the show, I'm going to talk about testimony, and I'm going to give a brief of my testimony. So a lot of today's questions are going to be, to just talk about what God has done in your life. And I've sent you the questions ahead of time. So let's get started. How old are you, John?
I'm 21 years old.
21 years old. And I remember when I turned 21. No, actually, never mind. I don't remember. But here we go. Alright, everybody. I gotta take my phone off. Forgot to do that. So, sorry about that.
Please keep your hands, arms, legs inside the car. No flash photography. Please turn off all cell phones. Thank you.
Yes, Jordan was calling me, but I had to tell him to, have a good day. Alright, so you're 21 years old. When and where were you born?
I was born in Richmond, Virginia, on my birthday in 1994.
1994. What month?
August.
August of 1994.
So right in the middle of the year.
I think I think I was still in New York, and because we moved to Florida in 1995.
I didn't move to Florida until I was 15, almost 16.
So you lived in Richmond pretty much until then?
Well, yeah, rural Virginia, outside of Richmond. Lived on a farm, lived in the country.
Alright, so speaking of living on a farm and living in the country, how was it like growing up as a child in the O'Leary household?
It's great. It's never a dull moment. It's a lot of fun. I love them all to death. It's a brand new experience every day.
Do you remember just you being the only child?
I don't remember much of that. I really don't even remember much of it being just me and my brother, before the other kids started to happen. So, I'm kind of always used to, living in a big family, having a lot of kids around. It's fun.
All right, so how many brothers and sisters do you have? About 7?
I'm the oldest of 7.
Oldest of 7. So how does it feel to be a big brother to 6 other kids?
It's a new experience every day. It's just everybody's got stuff going on now, and 2 of us are out working all day, and the rest of them, they're doing whatever they do all day. And we come home, we still hang out, have family time and stuff. But it's a lot of kids. It's a new learning experience every day.
Do you feel like as the oldest, you kind of have not saying a parenting role, but kind of a big responsibility, to help out your mom and dad?
I definitely have a responsibility to set a good example for those going behind me, and that's definitely, and I like to help out. I mean, I babysit and do stuff like that, but I definitely have a role of, a leadership role where I, try to be a good example and, show them the right way to walk.
All right. So, did your family always go to church? Was it something? Did you guys started when you were a certain age, or was it something you always did?
We pretty much have always gone to church in one form or another. My parents have been saved since before I was born. So, God has always been a part of our lives. I got saved when I was 6. I'm, a traditional church kid.
Alright, so, you say you got saved when you were 6. Was that the first time you had a personal experience with God at 6, or was it before then?
It was probably, the personal experience was, the first time I got saved, I really got saved just because everybody got saved at that age. It was,
go to hell or get saved, right?
Yeah, it was. We were going to an Assemblies of God church at the time, and it was, you either got saved or you went to hell, and nobody.
Well, if you break it down, that's kind of how it is, right?
Well, that is how it is. It's just not necessarily
in a fearful way.
Not necessarily a subject you want to put in that light to 6, 7 year old kid.
Yeah.
So my first experience of God happened much later.
So how old were you when that happened?
I want to say I was 13 or 14. It was in 2009, so that was 6 years ago. So I was 15, and I attended Kenneth Copeland Ministries Believers Convention and spent the week at the youth conference at the convention and just had a blast. It was amazing.
So how did that experience with God change your life?
It made God a little more relevant to me. I've had, my ups and downs as, with my Christian walk throughout my life. But,
everyone has.
That was probably the first time that God was really real to me. And then, as I got older, started going through high school, I slacked off a bit and came back and, and then we moved to Florida. So, then everything changed.
If you're comfortable with sharing, and it doesn't have to be something, real, profound, but has God brought you on anything that you didn't think you can get out yourself, that you knew without Him you couldn't get out of it?
I mean, yeah, I've had lots of, I wouldn't say like issues, but, there's been a lot of situations I didn't think, I was going to get out of. And
anything in high school that you could
High school,
share?
I mean, school in general. I hated school. I mean, I did really well in school up until my last couple of years of high school, and everything got super difficult. And I'm not an academics hungry individual, so I just God really helped me get through high school. Really helped me get through that part of my life in general. It's just a really interesting time for a person, no matter where you're from or whatever.
When I was in high school, I always said I was undercover Christian. Because
you wouldn't know it unless you beat it out of me.
You wouldn't know it unless you went to church with me. Because, what was it? Like, I got saved in the 9th grade, and a lot of my Christian friends were very, bold. They would pray in the hallways. And I remember one time, and this is terrible of me, but I saw them praying in the hallways, and I had to get through there. So I went around, because I knew if I went through, they would ask me to pray. It was terrible, I know. But I think eventually I got to the point, I think it was 12th grade, that I just, I would go to see you at the pole, but that's the only time you see me was at the pole. It was terrible. Alright, so let's go on a lighter note. What made you want to pick up a guitar?
Well, I started listening to music at a very young age and appreciating music. I was, really young, but when I started seriously listening to music, I was about 11, 12, 13. I started listening to a lot of contemporary Christian bands because, that was the only kind of music I was allowed to listen to, As long as the God kids don't listen to rock and roll or country music or anything like that. So,
how old were you? What year was this?
I was like 12, 13.
What Assembly of God church did you go to? Because I remember my 10th grade, when my youth pastor came in, he introduced me to Skillet, and that was heavy. That's the first album that they became really heavy.
I didn't get into Skillet until I had moved. It was right before I moved to Florida that I started to get into Skillet a little bit. And I actually, bought a CD, and my parents decided they didn't like the lyrics of some of the songs. So
which album was it?
It was Awake.
Awake?
And there were a couple of lyrics in there that weren't worshipful or positive, which is kind of the requirements for it really is a good requirement to have for your music.
Yeah.
That it either lifts you up or it inspires you or it's worshipful. And so you're in a really pivotal stage. You really shouldn't be listening to stuff that's going to drag you down. So they thought.
Did you think that? Because I know that a lot of their, I want to say, lyrics are kind of like cryptic or whatever, and it's I don't know how to explain it, but I'll read some of their lyrics and I'll be like, what does that mean? And then you'll go online and do some interview where someone asks, hey, what does this song mean? And they'll tell you, and it's like, oh, okay, so it makes sense. But before you're like kind of iffy. So, but go ahead, yours.
But some of the bands, Mark Lee from Third Day, he really is the one guitar player that inspired me to pick up a guitar, and he's really the guitar player that inspired me to fall in love with Paul Reed Smith guitars. because he was one of the earlier Christian artists that started using them, and they have a lot of Christian artists that endorse them, but he was one of the forefront back in the day, and he was one of the first guys to start playing them, and they're awesome guitars. I mean, I could go on. We could do a whole podcast about PRS guitars, but
we might have to do that.
But yeah, it's ridiculous sometimes. But they're just awesome guitars, and I love playing. I love playing music. I love playing music with other people, and just the fact that I can use my hands to make something that sounds so beautiful. It's just because I'm not a singer, and I'm not very artistic or anything like that in other ways, but I do love to play guitar, and I found out it's something that God had gifted me with, and I've taken it and run with it, and I just keep striving to get better.
What was your first guitar?
It was a Yamaha F310P acoustic guitar, and it was a gift. It was actually a really nice Yamaha. It was like a little beat up, but it was used. And some friends of ours had gotten all new guitars. They had, like, all their kids played guitar and stuff, and so their dad and all their kids got new guitars and stuff for Christmas. And so their dad gave me the guitar. He said, "Hey, I know you want to get into playing guitar." He goes, "You should have this." And so I got, he gave me the guitar, and the guitar is in a couple of pieces at my house right now.
You still got it, right?
I still have it. I'm in the process of getting it fixed up. But I still love it. It has its own unique sound, which is cool. Because even though you might get a really nice guitar, this one, nothing's going to sound like this one. So,
do you think Yamaha, like, as far as guitars and bass guitars, do you think they get a bad rap? Because I don't hear a lot of people praising any Yamaha bass or guitar.
I mean, there's got to be something to praise. But I don't know. They're great starter guitars. When you compare the price and the quality, there really aren't a lot of guitars out there that have, and basses that have that kind of quality at a beginner level, and are, and they're easy to play, and they're fun to play. So, I mean, but they're definitely not. After you've been playing guitar for more than 6 months, I say you need to step up and get, a Fender or a cheap Taylor or something, because, it's just, they're beginner guitars, but that's pretty much where it stops.
Gotcha. What pushes you to get better as a musician or guitar player?
Other musicians, for one. I mean, I love learning from other guitar players and other instrumentalists in general. And I've been playing in the band at my church for the last, couple of years. I think I'm getting ready to hit, I think it's about to be like 3 years now. And so I love doing that, and I always want to, I went from an acoustic guitar player, now I primarily played, lead electric guitar, in the church youth band, and, I play electric guitar in the adult worship band, and, I just want to get better so that I can, provide, because, like, worship is our, it's something we give to God, and so, I want to be able to give a better gift. So that's part of, the desire to, become better at, anything you do, really.
So, let me take this question somewhere else. Danny, real good guitar player at our church.
Danny Whitaker.
I know whenever he comes into a room and I'm playing, I mess up every time. I start to mess up, and I'm like, I gotta because I put him in such a high level as far as a musician, and I feel like if I mess up, I was like, well, there goes me playing anywhere else. But I just start to, I'll just start messing up, then I have to catch myself. It's like, he's just a human, we're good, blah, blah. But I'll mess up probably a good 5 minutes while he first walks in. How important has he been to you playing?
Well, in some ways, I never took lessons from Danny, actual one-on-one lessons, but Danny's given me a lot of pointers over the last couple of years that have made me, that have really helped me come along with my guitar, with my skill, and, with the things I do to make the music sound better. Danny is actually the one that taught Lindsay how to play guitar, and Lindsay was my guitar teacher for like a couple of years. So, and Lindsay actually took me from like a beginner guitar player and helped me, get to a level where I was actually good enough to play in the church band. So Lindsay was, inadvertently through Lindsay, Danny, has been an even bigger influence, and a sister to assistant to me becoming a better guitar player. We'll have to edit that.
No, you're all right. How long have you been playing?
I've been playing in total for knocking on 5 years.
5 years.
December will be 5 years.
I've been playing about 13 years, and I haven't been playing bass probably 12 years. But so 5 years. I remember when I first walked in to a youth practice. You've gotten way better in a whole year. From the first moment I met you till now. It seemed like when you first started, you were guessing a lot of your lead parts, and now it seems like it just flows better.
Yeah, I used to. There aren't always a lot of charts for what we play. A lot of like specific charts that have the tablature in them, which is I don't read sheet music. I play 90% by ear. The rest of it I can read a little bit of tablature, but I can't like read and play. I have to memorize what that tablature is going to be for the song, and then play it, from memory. So that's what a lot of that was just me not, my memory not being where it needed to be. And I used to be pretty bad because of that, because I would forget and then I had to guess. And, I would train wreck songs, man. I would just run them right off the bridge.
I have mild dyslexia, so I have to memorize my music, because if I don't, I'll start to flip the notes, and then I'll play that note, and it sounds wrong. So, but all right. So you've been playing for 5 years. That's pretty amazing. I know a lot of people out there, who don't go to our church. 5 years. This guy is pretty good. So, just letting you guys know. We're not having them rip the guitar today, but in my opinion, it's probably one of the best guitar players that we have in the church. So
I don't know that I'd go that far, but
I'll go there. All right. Is there a difference between playing worship on a worship team than playing in a band?
Well, I'm not a great person to ask about that because I really haven't played with.
Well, just like some of the
real band.
Your favorite Christian artists, because I'm not saying that a lot of them don't do worship, but a lot of them are part of the entertainment. So it's like they're playing their music, but they have to have a level of they have fireworks and all this pyro and all this stuff, and they're a little more energetic. So
well, you have to decide between worship is playing a show somewhere is more about it's more about the quality of the music and the quality of the experience. Worship is completely different. Worship is about the quality of your experience with God. And so that's why the music sounds the way it does. That's why the lyrics are written the way they are. Is so that you can get in touch with the Spirit better and just be more in in touch with the way God wants to move. And they're just polar opposites, really. One's a performance, the other one is an experience. It's also completely different because if you just go to a rock show or whatever, the band's not really getting anything out of it because they do the same thing every night, in a different city, and they tour all over the place, but every night they're playing the same songs, same guitar solos, same drum loops, same lyrics, same everything, same light cues, smoke cues, fireworks, crowd antics, this, that, and the other, and it can get to be routine. And when things, variety is the spice of life, So when you get to be, you don't really experience as much. But I tell you, like every time we go up and play a worship service, I have a different, something new comes out of each one, and that's really where the difference is between worship and other types of music.
Yeah, I know whenever go to Winter Jam or some Christian concert, it seems like play their songs, but it seems like majority not a majority, some bands, I'll say 50% of bands, Christian bands, they would play a worship music, and then the whole atmosphere would change. A worship song. And I think they do that so, it changes everything personally for them so they can have an experience as well, because you're playing the same songs over and over and over and over and over again. But you cool everything down and you play worship music, worship song, you can get a chance to, have that experience with God on stage instead of people thinking, well, all they do is entertainment. So
it definitely can open the door to bigger and better things. It's definitely very, very different though, because even I go there not really expecting to have a worship experience, and I'm just going there to hear some people play live music, and so it can make the atmosphere weird because you're bouncing back and forth.
Yeah. And
when you bounce back and forth between worship and performing like that, the worship isn't as good because you're not, that's not what you're there for. So sometimes it's a little tainted as far as the worship experience goes.
All right. Where do you see your music going?
As far as personally,
yeah.
I just want to be the best guitar player I possibly can. My guitar role models are numerous, but I think the best guitarist I've ever known in my entire life is my great uncle, John Edwards. He's been playing for 60 years now. He's crazy good. He's classically trained. He reads music. He has a complete music theory education. He'll sit there in an armchair for 3 hours and play on one of his vintage Telecasters and just gives you a chill, laid back 3-hour theory lecture, and you don't even have any idea what this guy is saying or talking about, but he's so musically inclined and smart, and such a great guitar player. He was another one of the big reasons I started playing guitar. So
theory is a lot like rocket science to me. I'll start to get it, and then they'll start to evolve in what they're talking about. I'm like, yeah, you lost me.
my general rule with music theory is that if I'm starting to get it, I'm not really getting it, and I need to not, and I need to, just give up and walk away. But, I'm not a theory guy, but he is, and he's insanely smart. So I'd hope one day that I could be that good. I'm more of a rocker. He plays more like blues, jazz, vintage country, so we're different guitar players, but, hopefully I could one day ascertain his level of skill.
What do you feel your calling in your life is, the calling God has put on over your life?
I'm still in the stages of, listening and, looking around, seeing what I want to do. I have a career that's, in motion. But at the same time, I'm listening to God. I'm listening for opportunities. I got my ear to the ground, and just listening, so to speak, for any movement of the Holy Spirit or God might have for me, to tell me what exactly I'm supposed to do. But for right now, I believe I've been planted, here in Lakeland and at Family Worship Center. And until I hear God tell me that I need to be somewhere else, I'm going to be here, as long as I can be here.
So you feel your calling is more in line with music for now?
I think if I had a ministry calling of any kind, it would revolve around music. I don't really feel called to go into the ministry, but if I was, it would be music based, because that's really where prayer's great, and preaching is it's good for you. I don't want to preach. I don't like to preach, but good preaching gets down in your soul, and that's good for you too. But worship is the way that I connect with God and with the Holy Spirit. So that's probably where my area of ministry would be.
All right, 10 years from now, where do you see yourself, or where do you want to be? When you're 31 years old.
I'm 31 years old. Well, I'd like to have a car that's newer than 2001.
That's a goal right there.
That's one really big life goal.
Same here.
A lot of them in the industry I work in, a lot of what you do is based off of certifications, and a lot of those have year requirements for them. You have to put so many years of service in to obtain, this certification or requirement. So hopefully in 10 years I'll have a lot of those certifications and get a lot farther, a lot more knowledgeable in the field I work in. And if that's not the field that I'm supposed to be in, hopefully, I can, bridge over easily into, what's next and what's better.
Do you see yourself married, maybe with a kid?
Maybe. I don't really know. I mean, I'm too preoccupied with life right now to think about that. But
I know, but would you like that to be a situation maybe you see yourself in, or?
Maybe. I don't, like I said, that's super far down the road.
Yeah, that's 10 years, but, I know when, whenever I, felt calling to the youth ministry, I had a 10-year goal in my head where I wanted to be. And I know God has called me to be a father and a husband, not just a youth minister. So it was, I thought of all of that stuff. But
sometimes I think about it, but, I just want to, make sure I'm keeping myself on track. And
because everything you do now, benefits your future, so.
Right.
Just, I know some people are like, well, you got to have a 10-year plan. No, not necessarily. You can have a 5-year plan, a 3-year plan, So it's all up to the person. Doing your prayer and, reading your word and just spending time with God, has God been, teaching you anything lately?
I think one thing that I've really gotten an education on lately is pride and the dangers of it. Because I've had some situations in my life where I was somewhat arrogant, and because of that I opened the door up to some not so great things. So it's all about what you want to do, how you want to present yourself as a human being. But if you choose to be prideful, arrogant, it makes your life a lot harder. And I think God's been showing me that and trying to help me be a little bit more humble about my life in general. Just because sometimes I'm kind of a jerk about stuff. So I'm only human.
Well, that's good that because a lot of people God would want to like to reveal that stuff about them, but they just choose not to see it. And it's good that you're opening.
Yeah, I definitely acknowledge that I have issues, but I mean we all do. We're human beings. We're made in the image and likeness of God, but we weren't born without sin. So,
all right. Before we go into a little break, one question: if you can sum up God in one word, what word would that be?
How long can I talk about this? Because I actually was listening to a really great piece by Stephen Furtick last night, and he's the pastor of Elevation Church, where the Christian worship band Elevation Worship comes from, and he did a little piece for them.
All right, hold that thought. Sorry, we'll be right back. All right, so we're back. We had to take a little break. All right, so what he was talking about before we left is he was summing up, if he could sum up God in one word, what it would be. Go ahead.
And so Pastor Stephen was talking about,
by the way, I love that guy.
Waking Up. The album title was Wake Up the Wonder. And he was talking about the meaning of the word wonder, because a lot of people, talk about, I wonder if, it's going to rain tomorrow. You don't really wonder. You're just not sure whether or not it's going to rain. Because when you look at, wonder and, how God uses the word wonder, one of the examples he was using was, he said, he was just, it was just a word he got from God, and he was, in the shower one day, and, he said, God just put a phrase on his heart, it makes me wonder. And he was thinking, we could write a really cool song out of this. And then he realized that was part of a Led Zeppelin song called Stairway to Heaven. Oh. And so, they didn't want to rip off of Led Zeppelin. So they decided to not do that, but he actually, the whole message he talked about the word wow. And, how God wants to bring our wow back to our life, because a lot of the times our life is just, it's our day-to-day life. It's just mundane. We do the same things every day. And again, variety is the spice of life. And, we just get stuck in the same ruts every day, going to work, going to school, go home, eat dinner, do whatever, go to bed, get up, do it again, go to church on Sunday, go to church on Wednesday, whatever. You get to that point where, nothing's exciting anymore because you've already done everything 1,000 times. Mm-hmm. And so, he was talking about getting your wow back. And, they actually used the word wow as an acronym and for Wake Our Wonder. And, that's the prayer that him and his church are, they're focusing on this. They're praying for God to wake the wonder back up in their life. But every time God appeared to Abraham or Isaac or Jacob or any of those the Old Testament scenarios where God actually appeared to somebody, and he said, instead of in modern days where he might act through other ways, he actually would appear to these people. And, and it was a wow moment. It was like, whoa, this doesn't happen every day. This doesn't even happen every 10,000 years. So the whole essence of it was, we want to seek God, and, we want him to, be so deep in our lives, so deep in our existence that every day is a wow day. We don't just walk through our lives, just hanging our heads and moping around and doing what we got to do just because we got to do it. But that, we have, a Savior that, made us free. We have a God that loves us and cares about us. And, that's something to just wonder about, not wonder about like think and, I don't know if, but wonder as in just stand there and basically be awestruck. And just, wow, the God that created every star in existence cares whether or not I'm going to trip and fall in the next 10 minutes. I mean, just the fact that he can manage all those things and, that he's that amazing. So if I had to sum God up in one word, it would be wow.
All right. If you had to sum up yourself in one word, what would that word be?
Not wow.
That's 2 words.
Well, that's 2 words. But, one word is kind of tough. 2 words is easier, but I don't know.
How do you think God sees you? If God had to sum you up in one word, how do you think he'll see you? Because God is not negative. We're negative on ourselves. We criticize ourselves. We look in the mirror and know that we're imperfect and that we're not worthy of God. But God thinks the opposite of that. He knows we're worthy of Him. When we were born, we were destined to have a relationship with God. Some of us pick up that destiny. Some of us don't. But God doesn't see us the way we see it. So if I'm not saying put yourself in God's shoes because that's kind of hard. But if you were in God's shoes, how do you think you'd sum up yourself in one word?
I mean, God looks at us and says, "Hey, I made that. I like that." We may not like that, so we may not like what we see. I don't know if God could sum me up, and if God has one word that sums a human being up. But I guess if you had to sum me up in one word, it would be searching. I'm always, looking for what's next. I'm always looking ahead. Sometimes life, bogs you down, but I try to always, just get back up, put my head down, keep pushing, keep working for what I want and where I want to go and what I want to do, and what God wants and what God wants me to do. And so, I'm always looking for the next opportunity. Like in boxing, you keep your head down, but you keep your eyes up, keep your hands up, but you keep your head down. You're just waiting. You're always waiting for, when you're going to get that chance to throw that punch. And, that's like the stance I'm constantly in. It's just waiting. I'm just ready to strike, ready to make the move, but I'm just waiting on God, waiting on, my life to line up. And, I would say the stars, waiting for the stars to align, but, that's more of a non-God-centered thing. So it's, I definitely want to be in line with God, and you just got to be ready to move, because when He says move, you got to pick up and move.
I remember when I was in Naples, I did this series on New Beginnings, and I told the kids, and being in prayer for that message, I just kept picturing myself waiting in front of a door, and it was like, there's my opportunity, but it's not time. And I feel like, that we all have our opportunities, and we're just waiting on God, because it's His timing. And then when it's time for us to go through that door, He'd give us the key, to open it, and we just got to walk through it. Some people don't walk through it. Some people watch the door open. So, but it's good that that you're looking for what God has for your life, and not trying to do what you want. Because it's hard, because as humans, we see in the natural, and if it's, if someone else is succeeding more than us, we're kind of like, well, I want to be there too.
Right.
But, it may not be God's will for our life. So it's good that you're waiting on God's timing. That shows very good maturity on your part. Who's the biggest influence in your life?
I mean, it depends. I have different influences for different parts of my life. I mean, my dad, I've watched my dad, work really hard and, just do his best to, take care of us and love us and lead us over, my entire childhood and even now. And, so he's really been my role model as far as, being a leader and a hard worker and, things like that. I inherited my work ethic from him. I'm a total workaholic. You literally have to kick me out and make me leave, or I won't. And, my dad has, really always instilled that in all of us, that, nothing's free in this world, and, except for salvation. And, if you want something, you have to go out there and you have to work for it.
And I also think, like, as a father, you have this family that God has placed in front of you, and you have that big of obligation that, to make sure, whether it's 7 kids or 2 kids, but, you have this obligation to take care of your family as a father. And I think that pushes you even more to want to provide and want to make sure that everyone has what they, their needs and stuff. Even you put your kids in front of your own, or your wife's needs in front of you. So, I can't imagine, only have a son. Your dad has, 7 kids and a wife. So it's like, he has even more. And I think that's, that's cool that he, knows that his responsibility is big, and, he keeps going and going and going. So, I met your dad a couple times, and, he seems like, he really has his head on straight. And that's good, because in the world we live in now, not a lot of fathers stay, So it's good to see that you have a good example in your life, for a father. How important is our testimony as Christians?
Well, testimony is, your testimony essentially is, this is where I've been and this is what God's done for me. The benefit to a testimony is, sometimes that can attract somebody, that you have common ground with, where they're going through something that you've been through. Hey, I turned to God for this, and that can open up the door to talking about God and salvation and Jesus and, all the above. And so, the testimony is important in that one respect. But it's also, in an act of worship. It's, when you say, to God, like Elevation Worship, to mention them yet again, they have a song called Look How You Lifted Me. It says, His grace and mercy is my testimony. And, that is, and it says basically He's the reason that I have a song to sing. Not so much that our testimony is that this is where I've been and this is where I am now, but this is what I used to be, and then God stepped in and took me from here to here. And that's, so that the testimony doesn't come out and, I'm stronger now, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger,
Are you quoting Kelly Clarkson there?
Kelly Clarkson, The Rock, a lot of people have said it. But I'll quote Kelly Clarkson. There's no shame in that. there's no shame in my game. Um, but so more that it's not so much about that, but more that it's about, this is what God's done, and putting the spotlight directly on Him. Because that's really all we are, is, we're there to reflect glory to Him.
Awesome. Is Skillet the greatest Christian rock band of all time?
No. They're not. I'm a huge diehard Panhead. I love Skillet to death. I love their music to death. I was a little scared for a minute and that you were actually going to call them the greatest rock band of all time because they fall
Christian
far
rock
short of
band.
that.
Christian
But
rock
even Christian rock band, I'd say they're top 5 all time. I don't know what you want to, base that on anywhere between ticket, concert sales, album sales to
personal opinions.
Personal opinions. I know that Skillet, their music helped me get through some really difficult times through my life, and that's why that music really reminds me of my testimony, and of the time when I when that music helped me get closer to God and helped me get to a place in my life where I wanted to live, where I wanted to become a better person, to grow and learn, and I wasn't going to be stuck in this hole, bogged down forever. But as far as a band goes, I mean, Switchfoot, they're legends. There's just no ranking Skillet above Switchfoot is just Switchfoot's older than them. They've been around longer. They've been around the block. They've done a lot of crazy stuff, and so they have. Apparently, I put my phone on vibrate, but I have to edit that too.
You owe everybody a coffee now.
And for real. But totally brain farted and forgot what we were talking about.
Greatest Christian rock band of all time.
ADD. But
you said Switchfoot.
Switchfoot, yeah. I mean, they're a great band. They're just as far as the quality of the lyrics, which is something I always look for when I listen to music.
I love their lyrics.
Quality of lyrics and the quality of the songwriting. You could have a great band and have a great live sound, but if you have crappy lyrics and crappy people or crappy writers writing your lyrics, then it's just not going to sound great. And John Foreman has written some of the best songs I've ever heard in my entire life. Just as far as the truth and just the whole the entire experience of a Switchfoot song is just off the chains.
All right, last question. Best memory of your life. It can be child, now. Best memory of your life or memories.
I like going to sleep at night. That's one of my favorites. And the cool thing about that memory is that I get to relive it every night. Not as often as I'd like to, not as early as I'd like to, but sleeping, I'm definitely a huge fan of going to bed at night.
I think we all are.
I don't know. I've had some really great experiences. I really think a couple years ago I went to Camp Decision, which is a youth camp that our church goes to every year. We take our youth there, and it was my last year of high school, and I had never gone before. And I've been thinking about going the year before, but I ended up not going. And this was my last year in high school, and they were like, hey, this is your last year. You really need to go experience this. And so I went, and after the first day, I instantaneously regretted not going for my entire time in middle school and high school, because the experiences that I had with God, that's when God really became real to me. And that's really what took me from, I play in a church band, and I guess, God's real. And, because I had had a lot of repair done to my spirit and to my soul from, the teaching of Pastor Reggie and Brother Nathan Mills. And, that had really totally turned my life around, because when I got here to Florida, I wasn't even sure I believed in God. And, being in the church has totally, totally changed my outlook on life. And, but Camp Decision just, took it to a whole nother level. And, I got healed of some stuff. I got some stuff in my head fixed up, the negative self-talk and, self-loathing and things like that. a lot of that was solved. God solved that at Camp Decision through the worship ministry of Brother Daniel Eric Groves and other people. It was just an all around great experience.
You have a favorite childhood memory? Something that sticks out to you?
I mean, I'm still a kid, so I went and got coffee the other day. I mean, that was a good, I don't know.
Get a red cup
childhood
from
memory.
Did you get a red cup from Starbucks?
Oh, let's not talk about it. Oh, no, we can't talk about the red cup from Starbucks. People are dying, man. We can't talk about the red cup from Starbucks. When I was a kid, we went to this theme park every year, or for a couple of years we did every year. For my dad's business, they had a company party for the company birthday or something like that every year, and they took us to this amusement park called King's Dominion. And so many people don't know about.
I've heard of it.
So many people don't know about Paramount King's Dominion. But it's all of the any Paramount, Nickelodeon, Nick Jr., all these shows that you grew up watching as a kid, these cartoons. It's like a Disneyland just for Nickelodeon stuff. And there's a whole Scooby Doo section. There's a whole Rugrats section. There's a whole.
I love Rugrats.
I never watched Rugrats growing up, and I can't stand them now. But I always watched Blue's Clues when I was a real little kid. So they have a whole thing where you can go through the Blue's Clues house and meet Blue, who in reality is 6 feet tall and has 3 foot ears, and that was a pretty amazing experience. And can do a yoga chair pose for unlimited amounts of time, and the cool thing about doing that as a family was because we were all young kids and. Both of our parents were, under 40 at the time, and were close to it, and we were all really little, so not all of us were there, but it was a great family experience every year. It was just like a miniature Disneyland, and at the end of the day, they had this huge pond in the middle of the main courseway of the park, and we would get funnel cake, and they would shoot fireworks off, and they do them way longer than Disney does. Their fireworks were cooler than Disney's. And so, it was just a great family experience, something that I just loved and would love to go back to.
Cool. All right, man. That's it. Appreciate you taking your time out of your day.
Thanks for having me.
To come on. We got to do it again. We got to have like a theme or something. We'll talk about music or something. But, we'll definitely have to do it again. Appreciate you. So, all right, we'll be back. Welcome back, guys. I hope you enjoyed the interview with me and John. It was cool to get to know John on a personal level. Me and him don't hang out outside of church much, so it was good to get to hear that, hear what God has done in his life and that he's heading in a good direction. So I'm excited about that. John, thanks for coming on, man. It was cool interviewing you, and gonna have you back on definitely again. We can talk about music and stuff. So look forward to me asking you to come back on sometime in the near future. Before I get into my closing, if you hear noises like a water fountain pump going on or anything like that, it's because I'm still at work. And I'm recording this at work, so forgive any of those noises. But today, this podcast theme is testimony. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, and and say that I've recorded this closing probably going on my 10th time. Because every time, I don't know, I just wasn't feeling it, and I don't know, because I don't want this podcast to be about me. I want it to be about what God has done in, my life, and help, promote Him promote. Help people to see God, through my eyes and what He's done for me in my life. And, maybe see things a different way than we normally see things. I think sometimes we have tunnel vision, that we see things in our lives because that's the way we see things. And I'm not saying I know everything, because I don't, but I do feel like God has blessed me with some type of wisdom, hopefully. And I'm not saying all the other closings that I recorded were terrible. It's just there was something just missing, So I'm not going to get into my testimony too much per se. I'm going to just talk about how amazing and how important our testimonies can be. Everybody's. Because I'm going to be doing this for a long time. This isn't something I'm just going to do, here and there and expect to get famous and go out on the road. I'm hoping to do this, have a new downloaded episode for you at least 3 to 4 times a month. So you can be encouraged. I just want to encourage people. That's all I want to do. This world, doesn't get easy. The enemy is always throwing obstacles our way. And sometimes we just need a little encouraging. And that's what I want this podcast to be, is a break from your day and an encouragement to you. So let me read the dictionaries of definition of what testimony is. There's 3 of them. It says, the first one is a formal written or spoken statement, especially one given in the court of law. The second one, evidence or proof provided by existence or appearing of something. And number 3, a public recounting of religious conversion or experience. That's probably a little religious conversion or experience. That's probably one a little closer to, what our testimony is. But the second one says evidence or proof provided by the existence or appearance of something. Evidence or proof provided by the existence or appearance of something. When we ask Jesus into our hearts, forgive us of our sins and to wash us white as snow with His blood, we're asking Him to change us, because we realize that on our own we can't do good because we have a sinful nature. And our testimony should be evidence or proof provided by existence or appearance of something. Our testimony should reflect that Jesus is dwelling in us, that we are saved, that we are trying to be like Jesus on a daily basis. That's what our testimony should be showing to people. We should be it should be the existence of what God has changed in our lives. The proof or the evidence. It's not, our testimonies are not just something we can talk about, but it's something we should show, But it's also something we should be thankful for, because God has delivered us from some pretty terrible things that we've been through in our lives. I don't know about some of you guys. My life hasn't been like terrible, but I have emotional scars, and this taken me a long time to. There's a water pump I was telling you about. But it's taken me a long time to get through that stuff. And even as an adult, I still dealing with some of those stuff as from a child, like rejection and insecurity and stuff. But now as an adult, now as, someone who's been through all that, I understand that I am not alone, that I have God, that I can go to Him and say, hey God, I'm thinking of rejection thoughts, I'm thinking insecure thoughts, help me out here, or a Bible verse will pop in my head, Let me read this Bible verses. Psalms 107 verses 1 through 2. Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for He is good, for His loving kindness is everlasting. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so, whom He has redeemed from the hand of adversity. We come to Jesus in a desperate, in kind of a desperate mode. We're like, God, we can't do this anymore. We can't live this life that we've been living. I don't know about you guys, but the only reason I came to Christ is because I saw what God did when He sent His Son out of love for me, for my imperfections, for my sins. That love right there, I didn't have anyone who loved me so much in my life at that time to beat what God did for me when He said Jesus died on the cross for my sins and my mistakes. No one has done that for me, So that love right there brought me to Christ, brought me to my knees, and let me know, man, I need Jesus in my life. I need to be saved. I need to be forgiven. That right there is what brought me, and a lot of us probably not anything like super terrible, but we come to God, we come to Jesus knowing that we are sinners, that we have made mistakes. So God deliver us pretty much from ourselves, from our sinful nature. Are we going to be perfect? No. The only perfect person is sitting at the right hand of God right now, and His name is Jesus. I grew up with no father. I didn't know my father. I was the middle child of 5 kids. My stepdad had his favorites. My mom had her favorites. And I wasn't either of those favorites. My stepdad, my real dad was in jail from the time before I was born till I was 18. I still never met the guy. I never felt loved in my own home. When I needed to talk to somebody, it wasn't people from home. I got saved October of 2002, and even in my own home I was made fun of because I was going to church. I was called Christian boy. I was called hypocrite because I didn't take the trash out. I was called so many things. I was laughed at because I wanted to become a youth pastor. So there were just so many times in my life where I probably just could have gave up. Recently I went through a divorce. I don't see my son every day. He's 3 years old and he needs me now more than ever. And all I can do is talk to him on the phone, and then whenever it's my time to go get him, I spend time with him, but it's not as long as I want it to be. I could sit here and complain about so many things that I've been through in life, but you know what? I shouldn't be where I'm at. I was born in the Bronx, New York. My dad's side of the family was there, and Centrons didn't have a good name when I was growing up. As far as I know, what I've heard, they're selling drugs or getting women pregnant. I'm supposed to be having a whole bunch of kids from a teenager selling drugs in some type of gang. Instead, at the age of 5, God moved me to this small little town where people live in trailers and there's orange groves and trees everywhere, you know? So God knew what he was doing. Even though I went through the stuff that I went through in my life. Even though things haven't been perfect. God has been there. Even though I'm divorced and my marriage didn't work out, God is there for me. Even though I don't see my son every day like I want to. And it hurts. And there are days where all I do is think about him. You know? It hurts me. And God is there. There's so many people in this life who are going through worse than what I'm going through. And they don't even have a relationship with God. But as Christians, sometimes we neglect to remember that we do have a relationship with God. And we sit here and complain about all the things that aren't going right in our lives. But we forget about what he's taken us out of. We forget about our testimony. Yes, we could talk about our testimony till we blue in the face, but we need to live it as well. And I'm not just preaching to you guys, I'm preaching to myself. You know, it's not something that we talk about, it's something that we live. You know, and as hard as life may seem sometimes, never forget where you came from. What God delivered you from. You know? So that's it. That's pretty much all I'm going to talk about for today. Just know that our testimonies are important because several things. They let us know where we came from and where we are now. It shows us why we need to be thankful for having a relationship with our Father. You know, with our Heavenly Father. We need to be thankful for what he's brought us out of. And there are situations in our lives where if it wasn't for God, we wouldn't have gotten out of it. So I just want to thank each and every one of you for listening to the podcast today. For the first episode. Thank you so much for downloading or listening on YouTube. If you enjoyed it on YouTube, just hit the like button. If I said anything out of biblical scripture, let me know. You know, I don't profess to be a Bible scholar, so I will admit to my wrongs. But I hope you guys got something out of it. You know, just know that your testimony is important, especially when it comes to, you know, against the enemy. He doesn't want us to share our testimony. He doesn't want us to let people know what God has done. And that's all the more reason to let people know what God has done in our lives. But we also need to live our testimony. We need to be a living testimony of our relationship with God. So, I love you guys. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hopefully, next episode, you'll bear with me and all the kinks and stuff. I'm still new to this. And I love you guys and I appreciate you. And if I said you know a bunch of times, tally it. And we'll try to fix that. Until next time, God bless you. Know you are important. Know you are unique. That God does love you. And that you're not a disappointment. And God has made you for a reason. And you're here to impact this world for Jesus Christ. And if you feel that you're not perfect for the job, then you probably are perfect for the job. Especially if you don't feel worthy. You know, that means you are worthy. Because God has made you and he's declared that you are worthy. Alright, God bless. I'm Nick Jeremy, and I do talk too much.